Om Shanti and greetings of peace. I've been a student of life and a constant world traveller since I was 21. I've been to more than 80 countries, and I've made it a point to understand the diversity of the traditions on the ground. This love for the celebration of faith in the four corners of the planet began with a 6-month overland trip from Australia, where I was born, to England. And during this time, I experienced all of the main religious traditions of the world. But I felt very old and not particularly wise. I was inspired to become more spiritual, and so I began to experiment with different kinds of meditation, because I really wanted to get inside myself and make the necessary repairs if possible. Despite the incredible variety of cultural perspectives that I'd witnessed, I began to realize that there was something consistent moving us as human beings, something behind. I was deeply impressed by people everywhere making practically the same devotional gestures, with different names of forms in their prayers and so on. Who are we really behind what we do and say? That was my big question. So I decided to go to a place where I could be alone for my own personal research. My idea was to spend around 6 months in peace, in silence, alone, contemplating the universe and my place in it. I had with me copies of the New Testament, from the Bible, the Dhammapada, the Bhagavad Gita, some of the Upanishads, and the Quran. And I'd spend many hours daily meditating, reading these sacred texts. And despite this intense research, I became more and more confused. And I was not as detached as I thought I was. And after 5 months, I'd had enough. I wouldn't get anywhere just by doing this, getting to the deeper questions about life by running away from it. No way. So I went back to London. 2 weeks after I arrived, I made my first contact with the Brahma Kumaris. There I learned about the tree of the different religions and its seed, God himself. I know that most would acknowledge that the existence of that one is more subtle, non-physical than that of human beings. And of course, we know that there are no scientific instruments or physical means to prove God's existence. I knew that. I could only verify this through my own personal spiritual experience. And after a few attempts to connect with that one, I already started to experience the transformative nature of the connection, the union, the yoga. And as incredible as it may seem, I came to know the details about the identity of the soul and the Supreme Soul that had been revealed through the physical medium of Prajapita Brahma, who was the founder of the Brahma Kumaris. And I began to mentally fly towards this subtle spiritual sun that I recognized as God, recharge my batteries, and also starting to overcome negative tendencies accumulated in me. I also began to comprehend the depth of the relationships that are important for the soul. Parent, child, teacher, student, guide, disciple, friend, friend. The biggest revelation for me was that God's not just a source of high spiritual energy, but he's also the highest personality. In other words, God's a soul or a spiritual being like me, but obviously with superior qualities, which makes him easily lovable and accessible to all. It was fascinating for me to understand that the connection itself implies the dual nature of our existence. In other words, the human soul is not God. The one who's beyond change, therefore, can remain as the source of spiritual power, is indeed the only hope for civilization, whose systems are rapidly crumbling. So I started to cultivate a natural relationship with the Supreme Being. I was glad that it did not require specific rituals, physical postures, forced endeavors. I could just remember him while sitting or moving around, just as I could remember any dear person in my life. So using deep points of spiritual knowledge about the dimension beyond, about the form and the attributes of both the soul and God, I could develop this love for him more and more. And it was really love and not dry theory which made this experience work. I remembered how much time and energy I must have spent searching for this very same one. And even though I'd been searching for him in other human beings, such as the founders of the different religions, as well as in nature itself, I could now gather all of my love from all of those things, all of the bits of my love, and concentrate it on God's essential form as a point of benevolent light. And as soon as I do this, I'd receive the return of this in the form of an incredible current of bliss. Another great revelation for me was that though his divine presence could be experienced anywhere, he did not mean that God's present everywhere and in everything. He's not omnipresent. As the incorporeal Supreme Soul, he exists in a different dimension to this physical one. And I've understood several things over the years from my study of Raj Yoga. Spiritual love, peace, and happiness are the basic qualities of the soul, number one. Number two, God is the ocean of those qualities, an unlimited source of them, and he can activate those qualities which are inside the soul that have been ignored or buried. Third thing, he's the source of the spiritual power with whom I can have a connection. And because of the similarity of our spiritual energy, this is possible. But he's also a being with many attributes. If I can imagine a perfect father, mother, teacher, guide, friend, I can come closer through a loving relationship with each of these roles. Through knowledge, I can create the link with God, but if it's only intellectual, it won't remain stable. Through understanding, I can build a bridge between the self and God, but it's only through love that I can cross it. Both knowledge and love are needed. If there's no knowledge, there's no bridge. And if there's only love, it leaves me on my side of the bridge alone and unfulfilled. So I need both. With both knowledge and love, I can begin to experience such pure love for that one, who is the essence of all of the relationships. My mother, my father, my teacher, my friend, my guide, and so on. Any relationship in which affection can exist is possible, actually, between the soul and God. Because of the subtle nature of meditation practice, a purely intellectual approach is inadequate, because both of us are incorporeal. It's only love that can propel me to that one and keep me connected in a concentrated way. As the perfect Father, he gives me the sort of love that can help me stand on my own feet. And as the mother, his love nurtures and comforts me with whatever I need spiritually. And as a teacher, his love is expressed in the teachings he gives for my own welfare, my own clarity. As an ever-present guide, his love is expressed in the concern he shows when giving directions related to my spiritual journey. And his love as a friend is experienced in the consistency of his companionship, supporting me, keeping my head high and my feet firm on the ground. In my previous research, I saw that many of the Asian traditions liken God to the sun, always shining, benevolently, making possible our lives here on the planet by providing both light and heat. That's the sun. God, of course, is not a physical sun, but a spiritual one, radiating the divine qualities of love, peace, happiness, purity, truth. Just as the light of the sun shines 24 hours per day, God's benevolence shines on me unconditionally. And as the earth turns away from the physical sun and the darkness creates the night, in the same way I experience it when I turn away from God, even for a short time, I feel disconnected from that light. So now that I have a clear idea of God's form and place of residence, if things get tough, I just go inside, remember that I'm a soul, reach out to that one divine power, and immediately start to receive benefit. In a very practical sense, I took up this path of Raj Yoga, as I said, when I was only 23, I think. And after some time in London, I went back to Australia, helped to start our activities there. And then I went to Brazil in 1979. And I remember I just arrived there with very little. I only had $200 with me. But I had such a feeling of faith that God would help me because it was His work that I was doing. And naturally, if I'm doing something for God, I like to keep connected. And my own experience of that connection is so beautiful, if I think about it. It's like, He is my backbone. Anything else I do in this world, I will always remember that He's there to give me support for whatever I need to do in His service. So this feeling of closeness and this feeling of naturalness is, I guess, the biggest benefit that I've received in all of these years practicing Raj Yoga, which actually means that connection between the soul and God. So I invite all of you to try it out. Just go inside. Remember that you're a soul, a shining point of conscious energy. And in a dimension beyond here, there's a sort of a subtle spiritual sun, just radiating light. So remember that one with love. Fill up with that light. Fill up with that love. And there will be big changes in your life. So that's my invitation to you. Take care of you, everyone, and Om Shanti.